New York.
Apple.
Hot dogs.
Dollar.
Hollywood.
Democracy.
Freedom. Rock and roll. Wall Street.
Statue of Liberty.
Los Angeles, California.
McDonald's.
Jeans.
Bubblegum. Video games. Nintendo.
What's so great about America?
Every Saturday night, 7 to 9 p.m., explore American culture and language.
With Master Steve,
Ina MK,
And Hasba Cutie.
tune in to find out about what makes America so great.
The Great American Weekend. Listen exclusively on Radio Van 103.1.
Also, watch us on the Radio Von Facebook page, website, and mobile app. Welcome to the Great American Weekend here on Radio Von.
Hello.
how you
Good
doing?
evening. Good evening, dear listeners of Radio Van. The Great American Weekend is on air till 9 p.m. And tonight we have a special poetic theme.
Well, we've got a few themes.
yeah,
I mean, we're kind
a
of
fusion
mixing
of
things up a little
themes.
bit because, you know, this past week and then tomorrow, there are some kind of important
Celebrities.
things
Yeah.
that happened on those days in the past.
So, Emily Dickinson.
Yeah,
Bill
Emily
of
Dickinson.
Rights.
Emily Dickinson, a great American poet. I'm sure most of you out there have heard of her.
Of
She
course.
was born on December 10th in 1830. I mean,
Quite long ago.
yeah. I haven't read all of Emily Dickin's poetry. She wrote something like 1,600 poems. Right? I mean, just huge.
Wow, that's
yeah.
a lot.
Every time I look that up and see it, I'm like,
I can never read all of that.
No, I couldn't either. I mean, I've read most of the Divine Comedy, and that's huge. But you keep on kind of working your way through it because it's a story,
And
you know,
also,
and you follow it. 1,600 poems. Oh my gosh.
And also with age, I think you get things differently and you reread stuff and you also
Oh, yeah.
read some other stuff that
Yeah.
you wouldn't read before.
Yeah. So we're going to share some of our favorite Emily Dickens poems
And also,
with you guys later in the show.
we are going to talk about Bill of Rights and human rights as well.
Yeah, also on December 10th, but you know, like 118 years later, in 1948, the United Nations passed the International Declaration of Human Rights, and so every day on December 10th.
It could be every day. Every day is Human Rights Day.
Every year
Why not?
on December 10th, they celebrate International Human Rights. And then tomorrow is December 15th,
which is...
and that is the Bill of Rights Day in the U.S. because on December 15th in 1791, that's even longer ago than when Emily Dickinson was born.
and
was that the Bill of Rights was passed. So the first 10 amendments to the Constitution of the United States became official amendments to the Constitution. And we'll talk about that later in the show.
And of course, we have a reminder. You can call in 560901. 560901.
And we'd better have people calling in because
Yeah.
there's all sorts of stuff we can talk about tonight. You can call in and tell us what your favorite amendment to the U.S. Constitution is.
I bet
That
all
I
of
would
you
love
have
to
a
hear.
favorite
I'm
one.
sure all of you have a favorite. So just call in and share with us. You can call in and, you know, talk about what your favorite human
Quote
right
is.
or, you know, your favorite Emily Dickinson poem. Call in and read us an Emily Dickinson poem. Maybe it'll be one that we've never heard before.
Yeah, just interfere.
So, yeah.
And also write your
Obstruct
comments.
us. Obstruct us.
Also-
we're not Congress, but you can obstruct us anyway.
Yeah, we're
That'll
ready.
come back
We're
during-
open and we're flexible. You can also leave your comments in our live video, in our Facebook group, which is Great American Weekend Radio Van, also Radio Van official Facebook page. And you can watch and listen to us through our application, of course, Radio Van, and our website, www.radiovan.fm. But before we get to our main theme, I would like to ask Stephen, because it's his last episode this year.
We'll be back in the new year.
Sad,
so I'm kind of booked. I'm a little busy.
Yeah, I'd like to ask
during the holidays.
What are you going to do this holiday season?
As little as possible.
Just lean back and
I'm gonna
enjoy
kick
the
back and
Christmas
try to,
carols.
Sit around a fire, drink some Glintwein or mulled wine. Spend time with family and friends. Yeah.
What
How
do
about
you
you? What are you gonna
expect
do?
from Santa this year?
What do I expect from Santa?
Yeah.
I expect him to make my children happy.
Oh.
Bring whatever they want. I don't need anything.
Them happy.
I already have more books than I'm able to read right now, which is why hopefully I'll get a chance to sit down and read a little bit.
Are you going to see all your children this holiday season? Is Daniela
I hope to. That's part of the plan, but you know how children are.
Okay. Maybe that's a Christmas
Especially
surprise.
once they go off, to college, you know how children are. They have a mind of their own.
A grown-up life.
What are you going to do?
Freedom of choice.
What are you going to do for the holidays?
I'm going to spend as much time as my son as I can, taking him to different performances for children, theaters.
The Donuts Arts and that's great.
And all that kind of stuff. And of course, he waits for snow so badly. So if it better snow Santa, okay?
If not, just try to jump in a taxi and head up to Zagatzor. There's always snow there.
That's what we're gonna do.
There's always snow up there.
Oh, it sounds like a fun plan for both of us.
Yeah.
So we'll miss you, Master Steve, for the
you guys will be
following
in good
2
hands.
episodes. Yeah, we'll try our best to not to disappoint you with all the segments. That is your responsibility usually. And if you can join and listen, it would be even greater.
I think I'll be able to find a telephone to call in.
Yeah.
I should be able to.
I bet there are lots of telephones in the United States.
I'm not going to drink that much mulled wine.
Not for the first couple of days. Okay, guys, this is the Great American Weekend. We have a fusion of different themes tonight. Tune in, call in, leave your comments. We'll be here till 9 p.m. We're going to now go for a break, and we'll be back shortly.
With quotes.
With quotes, of
My
course.
favorite section of the show.
Hello and welcome to the Great American Weekend. Today...
Steve, who is that?
I think we've been infiltrated by a Russian radio host.
Learn about American politics on the Great American Weekend. And we're back in the studio with quotes prepared for you as always, as usually. So get ready. Da-da-dum. And let's start. So all of the quotes, of course, tonight are by Emily Dickinson. The first one is, if I can stop one heart from breaking, I shall not live in vain. If I can ease one life, the aching, or cool one pain, or help one fainting robin unto his nest again, I shall not live in vain. And actually, this one quote, the first line of this little poem was written in this little notebook, which my host grandma gave me before coming back home to Armenia.
Nice.
And all of my classmates and people I met at church back in the U.S. and all the friends I made in different places, they signed this notebook with different wishes, so I still have that, and this one is really dear to my heart. The next one is, that it will never come again is what makes life so sweet. Yeah, that's for sure. If I read a book and it makes my whole body so cold, no fire can even warm me, I know that is poetry. Saying nothing sometimes says the most.
I like that one.
Yeah,
I like that.
I love
So
it.
now, maybe you know this or maybe you don't. Where are these from? Are these lines from her? I mean, the first one is one of her poems, right?
Yeah, some
I
of
shall
them
not
are
live in
from
vain.
some of them are from like little pieces from her poems, and
Okay.
some of them are just quotes thoughts by Emily Dickinson. I know nothing in the world that has as much power as a word. Sometimes I write one and I look at it until it begins to shine. Truth is so rare, it is delightful to tell it.
Well, depending on who you are and what the truth is.
What the truth is.
I think,
It always depends.
So I guess part of the reason why I asked that question is because Emily Dickinson was, I mean, she's known as a very famous and prolific poet now, but there were maybe only 12 of her poems that were ever really read
Published?
by anyone during her lifetime. Most of them were all found after she died. And she was known around Amherst, Massachusetts, where she lived most of her life, except for about 7 years when she went away to school. She was known as being fairly reclusive. She would never really leave the house. People would come over to her parents' house and she wouldn't greet them or meet them. She was known for staying in towards the end of her life, just staying in her room by herself all the time.
Oh, that's harsh.
But I mean, kind of by choice. And then she wrote letters. She had a handful of people that she corresponded with, I think most of whom she never met in person. So I'm guessing that, you know, it's not like today where these are quotes from like a book that she wrote or, you know, from an interview or a TV thing or a tweet or whatever, you know.
I guess she had a
lot
really
of it's
great imagination.
Oh yeah. Yeah. A lot of it's probably from her letters, which I think have been fairly well published. So anyway, just tying in like
thank you for all the information comments that you're making between the quotes. So let's move to the next one. We turn hold dear to your parents, for it is a scary and confusing world without them.
Tell that to a teenage kid.
Yeah.
What was that
Exactly.
quote? What was that quote a couple of weeks ago from Mark Twain? You know, when I was like 13, my dad was an idiot, and then
I never thought he would
7
make that
years later,
progress.
I was amazed at how much he'd learned in the meantime.
in 7 years. We turn not older with years, but newer every day. That's a good approach.
That's a good
I
one,
like
especially with the new year approaching. Yeah.
Those who have not found the heaven below will fail of it above. And the last one, 'tis not that dying hurts us so, 'tis living hurts us more. Well, of course, after dying, we don't care.
Well, that depends on what happens after we die.
Yeah, we never know. We don't know for sure. Not with pictures of
I mean, you know, she died and
heaven
became
or hell.
more famous than she probably ever imagined she could be.
And she gained more afterwards. And now we're ready for the break. Are we ready? We are, because we're done with the quotes, and we'll go on a break.
But, you know,
by
while
a
we're on
song.
break and listening to music, you know, think about giving us a call and chiming in on our episode tonight. The phone number is 560901.
Dare to call. Come on, guys.
Come on,
It's
keep us
easy.
company here. Keep us company here.
We're going to listen to Repair by Westlife. It's their new album and one of the best songs in that new album. I like it. So Repair, regain your your courage and call in. We're waiting. This is the Great American Weekend. We're here till 9 p.m.
Վարչապետ Նիկոլ Փաշինյանը հեռախոսազրույց է ունեցել Ղազախստանի նախագահ Նուրսուլթան Նազարբաևի հետ.
Oh, could they just speak a little bit slower?
Don't worry. You can catch local news, events, and culture in English every Saturday on Great American Weekend.
Whoa.
Something broke
on Radio
in Steve.
Slower?
Help.
Slower?
No, that's too slow.
Well,
we're back.
Yes,
As
we
you-
are
as
back.
you
And
might have
tomorrow
guessed.
is the lots and lots of th anniversary of the passing, the adoption of the United States Bill of Rights.
Is it somehow connected with being slow? Or?
No, 1791, I believe, was the year that it was officially adopted and became the Bill of Rights instead of just, a bunch of proposed amendments. And
Let's
the process
explain
behind that
to our
is interesting.
listeners. Sorry for interrupting, but let's explain what Bill of Rights is.
Well, okay. The Constitution of the United States was written by the Continental Convention after the War of Independence was won. In fact, several years after the War of Independence was won, because first of all, after the War of Independence, they had this really informal type of government that was called the Articles of Confederation. And now I'm going too fast, aren't I? Well, anyway,
that's a good rhythm. I like
as
that.
they were writing the Constitution and putting it out to the states to be adopted, to become the law of the United States instead of just the Confederate States of America, there were concerns about the fact that it didn't guarantee certain rights to the people. It was really just, the Constitution was really just the principles and the laws that were going to govern the states, the government structure and rules and that sort of stuff. And so there was a concern that, well, the government could pass laws that could do anything, right? I mean, the government could pass laws that could take away what we consider to be our basic rights. And so they said, well, wait a second, that's something else. The Constitution is the Constitution. That's the framework of government. And then the Bill of Rights is something we'll do later as amendments to the Constitution that will secure these rights. And, there are some things in the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. There were originally, I think, 12 or 13.
Is there something
that
that
were
needs
proposed.
to secure the Bill of Rights?
Well, no. I mean, it's been adopted as amendments to the Constitution, so it's there until another amendment cancels it. So you would have to have and the way that goes, the way that you go about it, it's not an easy thing to do. The Congress has to pass it, if I remember right, by 2/3, and then the states have to ratify it and everything. So it's not easy. There's only been one amendment to the Constitution that's been repealed, and that we talked about in an earlier episode. That was prohibition. So it's not, and I think there have only been 20 some in over 200 years. So, but there were certain things that the colonists, now the new citizens of the new nation of the United States, they just felt were basic rights. And this was a tradition that had been handed down to them actually through British law. The Magna Carta, which was, in the 1300s or something like that. The British Bill of Rights, which was, I think, in the 1600s. And then after independence, the Virginia Declaration of Rights were all things that, they kind of assume these are things that we should have. Freedom of religion, the freedom of speech, freedom of press,
choice.
Those sorts of things. And so people were worried that, well, the Constitution doesn't have those in it. So the framers of the Constitution and the people that were pushing for it to get adopted to replace the Articles of Confederation, they said, we'll do this. we'll take care of that, but not as part of the Constitution. It will be the First Amendments. And so we've got these 10 amendments. There were 12, I guess, originally that were proposed. One of them didn't pass until actually the mid-90s, 1990s. It took like 200 and some years for that one to pass. And it became, if I remember right, I think the 24th Amendment. Boy, you're asking me questions and I'm going on and talking about things that I didn't quite prepare. Don't have detailed notes on that. But that was an amendment on Congress passing their own pay increase. So if Congress votes to increase their own salary, that won't go into effect until after a new election and the newly elected Congress comes in. So if you're voting for your own pay raise, you won't necessarily get it. You have to get reelected in order to get it.
Okay, I will.
And then there's one other proposed amendment that came with the original 10 that still has never been passed, right? And I don't remember what that one is.
Before you remember, can I interfere with some comments which we have? We've got a question from Irene. She's asking, are we going to have quizzes? Irene, yes, we're going to have a quiz. And
it's quiz night.
Yeah, it's a quiz.
We're going to have 3. In fact,
we're going to have 2 or 3 if we make it.
If I stop babbling, we'll have one this segment.
Yeah, we can. And also we have another comment from Narek Avedian. He wrote, hope is the thing with feathers. And actually, Narek, I was going to read this poem later during the show.
You too?
Yeah.
Oh, see? Great minds think alike.
Oh, thanks. Narek, Master Stephen Ina. So, hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. My favorite stanza. Oh, excuse me. I lost it for a moment. So Narek says, my favorite stanza from my favorite Dickinson poem. She was quite a strange person in many ways. It's interesting to see how her self-imposed isolation affected her writing. She probably wouldn't want to be published anyway. Many of her poems were found written on pieces of paper and even chocolate wrapping that were scattered in her residence. Imagine how many were lost. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, that's a question
Can you imagine chocolate wrapping?
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I wouldn't really consider myself much of a poet, but I do write, and I'll write on all sorts of things, napkins, whatever's around.
Stephen, you should keep it in one place so people can find those later.
And then whatever, because I don't have one place with me when something hits, you know.
Thanks, Narek, for
thank you.
sharing your
and in
thoughts.
fact, that's funny because Narek. I'll save this until later.
Okay.
But we'll come back to Emily Dickinson later
Bill
on
of
in the
Rights.
show, right? But now we've got the quiz about the Bill of Rights. Okay, so it's not. I mean, I looked through a few, and there were some out there that I didn't even do well on, and I'm not.
Thank you.
Not to say that I'm a whole heck of a lot about anything, but this is a pretty basic one. And if you don't know the answers, they're answers that you might actually find interesting and not just like weird, strange trivia. So, the first one. What historic document is the Bill of Rights a part of? The Declaration of Independence, the Emancipation Proclamation, the Constitution, the Gettysburg Address, or the Pledge of Allegiance?
Constitution.
Okay. How many amendments?
You're not going to tell me whether it's right or wrong? Oh, later.
We get to the end, and then
Okay.
it'll tell you how many you got right and got wrong. How many amendments are included in the Bill of Rights?
10.
Here. Well, just the first 3, 5, 10, or all 27 amendments are included.
10. I'm
Which?
going to get an F on this one.
you'd have to like fail all the rest of them from here on out, which I don't think is going to happen. Which amendment gives the citizens the right to bear arms?
To what?
To bear arms, to have guns.
Oh, okay.
The second, the third, the fifth, the 10th, or the first?
The 5th.
Okay. I love that. No, I'm sorry. No, I'm not making fun of you because I used to get them confused too. And you would get them confused if you're not an American and there aren't like certain sayings. And we'll talk about
on
these
air.
sayings.
I'm sitting here and I'm ready.
I know. Who wrote the amendment that became the Bill of Rights? The amendments that be John Adams, James Madison, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, or Abraham Lincoln?
Thomas Jefferson.
Okay. Which of the following describes the Bill of Rights? A document that ensures the basic freedoms of the citizens of the United States, a document that limits the powers and controls of the government, a document that protects the freedom of religion and speech, all of the above, or none of the above?
All of the above.
None of the above. It doesn't do any of those. No, I'm just... Which amendment guarantees citizens the freedom of religion and the freedom of speech? The first, the second, the fifth, the 9th, or the 10th?
I guess it should be the 1st.
Okay. What right does the Fifth Amendment protect? The right to bear arms, freedom of speech, the right to legal representation, meaning a lawyer if you're taken to court, freedom of religion, or the right to choose to not testify against oneself?
Oh, well, if I remember my previous answers, that would be to bear arms.
But are you sure your previous answers are right?
No,
okay.
Not really. Or maybe to...
It's a common phrase in the U.S. to say, I plead the fifth.
Yeah, okay.
It's the only reason I can remember what the Fifth Amendment is about because of that.
So not to testify against yourself.
True or false? The Ninth Amendment states that 100% of the rights that citizens have in the United States are called out in the Constitution. They have no other rights beyond what the Constitution and its amendments say. True or false? The only rights Americans can ever have are those that are listed in the Constitution and its amendments. Is that true or false?
True.
According to the 10th Amendment, who gets all of the powers that are not specifically called out in the Constitution? The President, the people in the states, the Congress, the Supreme Court, or the government in general. So if the Constitution doesn't talk about this certain power, who gets it just by default? The President, the people in the states, the Congress, the Supreme Court, or the government?
The government.
What are some documents that the writers used to base the Bill of Rights off of? The Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Magna Carta, the Articles of Confederation, the Gettysburg Address, and the English Rights Law. The Magna Carta, the Virginia Declaration of Rights, and the English Bill of Rights, the Emancipation Proclamation, the Magna Carta, and the Articles of Confederation, the Constitution, the Well, just, I mean...
I have number 1.
Number 3, thank you. Oh, okay. You got 60%.
I meant that I need to go to the restroom.
Oh, you have to go to the bathroom? That's okay. Go to the bathroom while I correct the quizzes.
That's not 60%. As bad
not
as
bad
I
at all.
was
No, not bad
expecting.
at all. Not bad at all. That might even get you to pass the citizenship test in the United States.
Okay, will you help me with that?
Okay.
Well, most of them were blind.
Blind
logic
guesses.
Plus
yeah.
blind guesses.
Well, and we can talk in the next segment, maybe a little bit more in detail about all 10
We
all
still have
proposed 12.
plenty of time.
But so the first one you got right. Of course, it's a part of the Constitution. They are amendments to the Constitution. How many are included? You got that one right. 10. Okay, and here all 27 amendments are included. That's not true, but the 27 is the number I was looking for earlier. There are 27 amendments to the Constitution in just over 200 years. So it's not a common thing. And 2 of them actually cancel each other out. So it's actually more like 25. Which amendment gives citizens the right to bear arms? It's the Second Amendment. Okay. Who wrote the amendments that became the Bill of Rights? It was James Madison. Thomas Jefferson, if I remember correctly, was actually the guy who wrote the Declaration of Independence. So you're close.
Okay.
Not
you're
that
close.
bad.
Not that
Which
bad.
of the following describes the Bill of Rights? Well, all of the above. Okay. None of the above. I love that one because, it limits. Okay.
That's for aliens.
Which amendment guarantees citizens the freedom of religion and the freedom of speech? The first. And that makes sense. But it actually wasn't the first of the proposed amendments. It was the third.
So it's number 1?
Yeah, but it's the first. There were 12 that were proposed. But the first 2, and this was, I believe, the third, but the first 2 didn't pass until one of them passed later in the 90s. But it was the first one. It is considered the most important of them all.
Of course.
What right does the Fifth Amendment protect? The right to choose not to testify against oneself.
Yeah, I'll remember that. I heard a lot in the movies.
So, but I mean, you talk about
right now,
my
I'm
First
sorry.
Amendment. Yeah,
I'm watching right now How to Get Away with Murder, this serial. It's amazing, and I just, while you were reading that, I just remembered. Shoot, I should have remembered that one.
I mean, and there are
We use
3
it a lot.
phrases. This is all I got for you this week with phrases and slang. There are 3 phrases. My First Amendment rights. I need to assert my First Amendment rights, which means freedom of speech or freedom of press. Okay. The other one is I plead the Fifth. Meaning,
Not
if
to
I
testify.
answer that question, I might incriminate myself, meaning admit to a crime. So I plead the Fifth, which, I mean, and then you've the true or false. The Ninth Amendment states that 100% of the rights of citizens called out in the Constitution are there, that anything that isn't in the Constitution is not considered a right. And that's actually false.
Yeah.
The Ninth Amendment, though, is often called kind of the forgotten amendment because nobody
Which
ever
includes
really,
all,
nobody ever really
everything.
talks about it. It's the idea. But there was a fear at the time when they were passing these that people would say, well, if it's not in the Constitution, either in the Constitution or one of the amendments, then it's just not a right, and we can't expect it to be one unless we pass an amendment making it part of the Constitution, right? And so they said, well, no, we have to point this out, that there
we
can
need
be
to have an
other
exception.
rights. There can be other rights. Okay? A law can be passed in a state or by the federal government that can give someone a right.
That's
It doesn't have
interesting
to be.
because
It doesn't have to be a constitutional amendment.
doesn't that mean that you can put there any right and manipulate with that? I mean,
Well, I mean, what we can talk later. And that's one of those interesting things. What are rights? Where do they come from?
yeah.
And that's a good question. It's a really good question. But what the Ninth Amendment, which is sometimes called the Forgotten Amendment, because we don't think of it as being that important anymore, right? What the Ninth Amendment basically says is it doesn't have to be part of the Constitution in order for it to be a right
Of a human.
in the United States. Yeah.
Okay.
So question number 9.
That makes the amendments quite flexible.
Well, no,
in fact.
it doesn't make the amendments quite flexible. It makes
the
rights.
list.
It makes rights flexible.
Yeah.
You could legislate rights or claim legal rights without having to pass an amendment to the Constitution, which is a big deal. According to the 10th Amendment, who gets all of the powers that are not specifically called out in the Constitution? This is the people and the states. So, and they were very much afraid of having too powerful of a central government. But what they were coming from was the Articles of Confederation, where the federal government couldn't even have an army. The states only could have armies. The federal government couldn't print money. The states all had their own money.
That's kind of confusing.
The federal government really didn't even do treaties with foreign countries or trade agreements with foreign countries. That was all done on a state-by-state basis. So if you moved from Virginia to Maryland, or just traveled from Virginia, you would have to exchange currency. You would have different rights, different rules, different rules of import and export. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah, it is.
If somebody attacked Virginia internationally, and Virginia didn't have a strong enough militia, no other state had to interfere. No other state. I think that's right. I'm pretty sure that's right. But there was if Virginia didn't have a strong enough army on its own to defend itself, then it couldn't defend itself.
Yeah.
So it was completely fragmented. It was a confederacy. What happened? But when they made the republic, which is what happens with the Constitution, there's a stronger federal government, central government.
Unity.
But they were still really worried that government would become too strong and too powerful. So the 10th Amendment is basically any power that isn't specifically given to the federal government, the federal government does not have. The people or the state governments have, which is why outlawing alcohol
to always have this balance.
To have a balance, but that's why outlawing alcohol had to be a constitutional amendment in the United States, unless each state did it itself. That's why there were constitutional problems with having a federal income tax.
And now I have to defend our First Amendment.
No, this is not a First Amendment right. Which right would it be to
media?
The right to make some money.
The right.
We gotta pay the bills.
The right
I have
for
a right
the break.
It's not in the Constitution, but I have a right to pay my bills. That's why we have to go. That's why we have to go to a commercial break.
Guys, we'll be back after the break and after music. Stay tuned. This is the Great American Weekend.
Ina, what would make America great again?
More barbecue.
No, we need more freedom. That's what'll make it great.
Join us on Great American Weekend
and help us solve all of America's problems.
Every show is recorded by the NSA and sent to the White House.
We're back in the studio with Master Steve.
We're just talking over one another now and over the trailer. And Ina MK.
Yes, and revenge is coming.
So
because
I think we'd better lay off the law and history for a while.
Yeah.
Right? Let's get back to the literature.
We'll have a literature break now. And I've prepared a quiz for you, Master Steve.
Okay. I found a quiz for you as well.
Oh, great. This is a quiz night.
Yeah,
the quiz night, the law night, the poetry night here in our studio. And let's start. Would you like to know which famous classic writer are you?
Yes.
Okay.
As long as I can collect the royalties afterwards.
It's a quite short one. So let's start. Pick your favorite adjective out of the following: limpid, insidious, didactic, dark. Oh,
man.
I wonder if you have a favorite adjective.
Insipid?
Insidious.
Insidious. Insidious I like. Yeah, let's go with that one.
Okay. Where is your favorite place to write? Outdoors, coffee shop, home, abandoned cabin in the woods, library, bar. Outdoors, coffee shop, home, abandoned cabin in the woods, library, bar.
At this point, I write
All of the above.
wherever I have time, inspiration, a pen, and a piece of paper. I've written in all of those places, but I would probably prefer to be in a cabin in the woods. Yeah. Maybe I could get a full short story out.
You remind me of Emily Dickinson. What's your favorite genre to write? Mystery, poems, adventure, drama, romance, and sci-fi?
Sci-fi. Jeez. I don't know. I would have to go with poetry. That's like the only thing I've written in a long time.
Would you read some of your poetry sometime on air?
I have once.
Yeah, but it was long ago. What is your favorite writing instrument? Typewriter, PC computer, ink pen, Mac computer, pencil?
Well, it depends on what I'm doing, but most of the time it's pen and ink.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I usually don't use pencils. I don't like them.
Yeah, because they delete easily.
Macs I can't stand. I don't know how they operate.
I know.
And iPhones, I look at them and I'm
Me
like,
neither.
it doesn't work. Like, you just don't know where to push.
I hear
I'm like,
you.
So a PC, everything ends up being typed up on a PC at some point anyway.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I make too many mistakes to do a typewriter. That would just be a nightmare.
ABC check.
Well, not just that, but I'm a horrible typist. So it just, like, where's the whiteout, man? I'd go through more whiteout than ink.
This out.
I'd go through more whiteout than ink if I was writing with a typewriter.
And you do it with the screen.
Put the whiteout on the screen.
Who ruined my computer?
That's in some movie.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, where the guy's putting the whiteout on the computer screen.
We need to remember which movie.
I don't. Yeah, I think, or it was a TV show or something.
So next one. What is your favorite writing drink? Tea, hot chocolate, scotch, water, coffee, gin and tonic.
Again, it all depends.
All of the above.
But I'm gonna go with the Hemingway advice.
Mm-hmm.
Write drunk, edit sober.
Scotch?
So the scotch.
There you go.
Unless it's a really hot summer, and then the gin and tonic. But the scotch.
Okay, the right men's drink. What is the most productive time of day to write? Middle of the night, mid-morning, afternoon, evening, early morning.
Well, if you're drinking while you're writing,
and it's
I'm not saying I do this, but I'm going to follow that logic just for the sake of following some sort of logic. Then I would say
it won't
the
be
middle
early
of
morning.
the night. Yeah, hopefully it won't be early morning.
Otherwise, I would be very worried.
I'd already be drunk.
What inspires your writing? Friends, family, nature, your muse, social justice.
Social justice? No. Oh my gosh, no.
That would go well with our theme.
I'm gonna have to do muse, because that's ambiguous enough to
that
cover
could be
everything.
all of the above.
Yeah.
Okay. What is your favorite setting? City, childhood home, small town, hospital, forest, quaint neighborhood.
What was the first one?
City.
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 City boy. What is your favorite season? Winter, spring, fall, summer.
Fall. For stories, I like fall.
Romantic. What is the best European vacation spot? London, Italy, Spain, Paris, Amsterdam.
Italy. I love Italy.
Never been there. Pick one of the following. Who? No, this is funny. Pick one of the following. Who, whom, whose, who, apostrophe S.
What?
I know, sorry.
No. What? No, apostrophe S.
Okay. That's a different one.
Who
What
is?
Who is? What is your favorite theme? Injustice, love, lost innocence?
That doesn't always mean what you're thinking right now.
I know.
Not always.
Quest for power, coming of age, war.
I would have to say coming of age, I think. Although, I mean, coming of what age is then how I would phrase that, or how I would approach it, you know? Like epiphanies. When people have epiphanies.
I have an answer.
Yeah,
already.
You have an answer.
Ernest Hemingway.
Yeah, well, hey, I think it. I think it all comes from. I think it all comes from. Yeah. I love that. I love that thing. That quote by him, though. You know, write drunk, edit sober.
He's an American novelist, short story writer, and journalist.
Papa Hemingway. Yeah.
Papa.
He would sit in the cafes and drink some Pernod and write with a pen and whatever, and then he would go back and edit and type it up later. Yeah. An incredible writer.
So you are an incredible writer.
Okay.
Start collecting a book, Master Steve. And think about this while we're going on a break. We'll be back shortly. This is the Great American Weekend. We've got more stuff prepared for you.
But I got a quiz too.
Of course.
Another one? Nah, that's okay.
We'll do that after the break.
Oh, okay. All right.
Call in 560-901. Do join our chat and have fun with us. Practice your English. Do not hesitate. This is the Great American Weekend. We're here till 9 p.m. I would never live in America.
Why not? Didn't you enjoy your time there?
Yeah, why not?
It was good, but it wasn't great.
Because you didn't know us when you were there.
Join Ina MK, Master Steve, and Hasva QT for a great American experience.
Every Saturday on the Great American Weekend. We would like to say hello to our Hasva QT and hope he's doing good.
Hey, Hasva.
Hey, Hasva. Hello.
Give us a ring if you got the time.
Great American Weekend. Yeah, give us a ring. Call in. We'd like to chat
He's
with
on
you.
like these adventures and doing some important work.
I know. He's so
we're just
into
sitting
it.
around in the studio here talking to each other.
We have a good imagination. So now, what do we have prepared?
All sorts
next?
of things. What should we do next? We should. I'm gonna quiz you again, and it's a
Okay.
similar quiz because now we know who I am in terms of famous writers of the
And
past.
I'm wondering who,
I am Papa Hemingway.
and I'll be Mama.
And so I've got a quiz that's which writer were you in a past life?
Okay, let's do it.
Okay. I took this earlier and I was William Shakespeare. So apparently
you get all the cool guys.
apparently I'm like, crazy and Hemingway and Shakespeare like nothing in
Yeah.
common. Nothing except for they were great.
Two different
And the English
poles.
language. But it was different back then. Oh, what Hemingway did to the English language. Don't get me started. But I still love him as a writer. First of all, what is your gender? I don't think that's important. I'm a woman, I'm a man, or I'm not even human. And it's got a little picture of the Terminator.
Well, I'm a woman. I hope so.
Okay.
I'm trying to be.
Doing a pretty good job as far as I can tell.
Thank you.
Pick a drink. A pint of ale from my local tavern. Champagne. I don't mind whatever it is. You can set it on fire for all I care. Whiskey on the rocks. A fine wine or a mojito.
I'd go for rum, but there is no
There's
such
no-
option.
Well, what's in a mojito? Is there white rum
Mojito?
in mojito? I forget.
Let's go for mojito. Okay. There is some mint in it. I like the freshness of it.
Was your life hard? Yes. Or apart from certain events and people? Not really. It was normal. Yes, at the beginning when I wasn't controlling it. And now I'm in total control and it's still horrible. No.
It never happens.
No, it was great.
The second one, I guess. Something in the
apart
middle.
from certain events and people, not really. Oh, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Whoa. Wait a second. It just started over.
Oh, it's okay.
You're
wait.
a woman. You would like a mojito.
You're a woman.
We're at the bar. I'm going to buy you a mojito. No, apart from certain events and people, not really. Okay, here we go. What is your book?
Mm-hmm.
What is it about? Mainly about people's lives. It's about romance, something that takes you away.
Mm-hmm.
What I feel like, really, that apparently you can't share in real life. Something questioning our very existence. It's a mystery or it's gothic.
It's something, a fusion of mystery and romance.
Okay, but you have to choose one or the other. Something that takes you away?
Yeah, it could be. Something that takes me away to romance and mystery.
Okay, that works. Which would you like to write with? An old-fashioned pencil? With a quill? God, that would be messy. With an old-fashioned pen? Or with a typewriter? Or with your own blood?
No,
that's not one of the options.
Let's drop that one. Oh,
I don't think anyone
maybe
became
a
a great
pen.
writer writing with their own blood. Because they would bleed to death first. A pen?
That would be a very painful book. A pen.
Okay. Is your writing more realistic or more fantasy? Somewhere in between, realistic or fantasy?
Fantasy.
Okay.
There is an option, something in between?
Yeah.
Oops.
Well, too late now.
Okay, sorry. Okay, the next one.
Why do you write?
Mm-hmm.
For drama?
Mm-hmm.
That's not something you can simply ask. To empower people? To make people think of others? I have an idea. Why waste it? To scare people?
No.
To take people on an adventure? Or, I feel like it.
I feel like it.
Okay. There should be another answer to that based on a Nietzsche quote, but we'll talk about that later, maybe. That's why I write. Do you like poetry? Dude,
Yes.
I am a poet. No, or, of course.
Well,
I'm going to say the first one. Dude, I am a poet.
Is that too, like, bragging?
No.
Okay.
No. Okay, calculating the results.
Good, because we're ready to go for a break.
You are
again.
J.R.R. Tolkien.
Oh, interesting.
That's pretty cool.
I'm cool.
That's pretty cool.
And while I examine more.
You know who that is,
who
right?
I am, yeah.
Yeah.
We're ready to go for another break and to listen to Tonight by Ramon and Jamal Mar remix. So stay tuned. We'll be back after 4 minutes to talk about news, calendar of events, and some of the stuff that we missed.
Yeah.
Oh, say, can you see?
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed?
Adamast, what are you doing?
He's trying not to forget where he came from.
And this was a sort of poetry.
Should we try?
No.
Oh my gosh, I have an idea that would just be so horrible.
No, you're not doing this.
We're not going to rap Emily Dickinson poems. We're not going to. Good.
I'm
okay.
not sure.
No. Oh my
well,
gosh.
if Haswa was here,
I'm not.
he could do
He
that.
could. I couldn't.
In a cool
I
way.
don't have that.
A bird came down the walk. No,
I
we're not
don't
doing
have that
this.
good of a sense of rhythm. Should I?
Of
Should I start?
course.
Okay. There is no frigate like a book. And I love this one because it talks about the importance of reading. Like we were talking about, a few weeks ago on the
like
show.
we're talking about always.
Yeah. There is no frigate like a book to take us lands away, nor any coursers like a page of prancing poetry. This traverse may the poorest take without oppress of toll. How frugal is the chariot that bears a human soul.
Hmm.
And I did practice that off the air, and I still just messed it up.
Emotions.
How frugal is the chariot that bears a human soul.
Frugal. Is that fragile?
No, frugal, not stingy, right? But careful with money.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, frugal. Okay. Is this my turn?
Yeah.
Hey, I've prepared applause for you. There you go.
Yay!
Yay.
Thank you very much.
And I have a bird came down the walk. A bird came down the walk. He did not know I saw. He bit an angleworm in halves and ate the fellow raw. And then he drank a dew from a convenient grass, and then hopped sidewise to the wall to let a beetle pass. He glanced with rapid eyes that hurried all abroad. They looked like frightened beads, I thought. He stirred his velvet head. Like one in danger cautious, I offered him a crumb, and he unrolled his feathers and rode him softer home. Then oars divide the ocean to silver for a seam, or butterflies off banks of noon leap plashless as they swim. This is so beautiful.
Yeah, it's nice.
It's like it creates a certain atmosphere.
Yeah,
immediately.
I love that. And he unrolled his feathers.
Feathers, yeah.
Not he spread his wings, which is just so overused. It's he unrolled his feathers.
It's
wonderful.
The visual is visual. Ooh. I visualize it immediately.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
What do you have?
I'm nobody. Who are you? I'm nobody. Who are you? Are you nobody too? And there's a pair of us. Don't tell. They'd banish us, you know. How dreary to be somebody. How public, like a frog, to tell your name the livelong day to an admiring bog. Just the pleasures of being anonymous.
Invisible.
You know, I don't have to go around telling people who I am all damn day. I'm just here.
That's
me.
all
I'm
about
nobody.
her, right?
Yeah, I think so. And this is a good one too, because seeing it and reading it, it reminds me of Shel Silverstein. You know who Shel Silverstein is, right? With A Light in the Attic and Where the Sidewalk Ends.
Yeah.
We got to bring in some Shel Silverstein poetry. And I'm sure he was influenced by Emily Dickinson. I'm sure. So do you have something else?
Yes. My second one is Narek. Hello out there. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me.
Nice. And again, she's got this thing with birds and crumbs. She likes to feed the birds, maybe.
Yeah, could be. She was close to nature. That's sitting at home, staying home, and staying close to nature. That's the talent.
I think we've got time for one more, and then maybe we'll chat a little bit.
Of course.
This is the first Emily Dickinson poem that I ever remember reading.
Mm-hmm. Was that a school program?
It was in my literature textbook in school, in elementary school, I think, or maybe it was middle school. But it's the first one that I remember. Maybe I read more than, but this was the one where I read where I thought, ooh, maybe she is good. Maybe they're not just telling us to read her because, whatever. Yeah, maybe she is good. I never saw a moor. I never saw a moor. I never saw the sea. Yet I know how the heather looks and what a wave must be. I never spoke with God nor visited in heaven. Yet certain am I of the spot, as if the chart were given.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Master Steve. This was a poetry segment for those of you out there. We hope that you like our reading.
Do we have just like one little second?
Of course.
Speaking of, so Narek is a friend of mine. Mm-hmm. We were hanging out last weekend and we were talking, and Emily Dickinson came up. And what we were talking about music and poetry and philosophy and all this stuff. And I think one of us said, I think everybody has at least one good song or one good poem or one good piece of art in them. But it's not that makes you like a poet or whatever. It's being able to produce them continuously, like be able to produce a big body of work. With only the 12 poems that were published or made public during her lifetime, she wouldn't be a poet really, right? But once she died and you saw like the huge body of her work, then wow, she's a poet. She's a significant poet. But that's the sort of thing. If you write, don't let anything stop you.
Yeah, and don't hide it, because
whatever, if you do anything artistic, do it.
If you're creating
and show it. And you may only make one or two good ones your entire life, but you'll never know unless you keep trying. And then once you do a good one, then keep going, because maybe the rest of them will be
also
yeah.
good. Yeah. And again, a quote from my favorite Antoine de Saint-Exupéry: if the stars light up, then someone needs it.
Nice.
I think we can do transition from what we've said before. And we have another quote, another comment from Narek. Much love for Silverstein, and thanks for the shout out, Ina. I've visited that poem on many a dark night. On many dark nights, maybe.
Well, I mean, many a dark night. It's kind of an old fashioned way of saying it, but it means the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a little archaic, but it's poetic.
You see, I'm learning. Thanks,
Many
Narek.
a dark night.
Thank you. Thanks for taking part in our show. And now we're ready for news.
Oh, we're going right into the news?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I think we are.
So
let me put up the background music a little bit so we have the right mood.
I actually have news from the U.S. instead of just all of this talking. I mean, it's not the Mueller report again. It's not
unbelievable.
It's not more impeachment hearings again. Stuff that just sound and fury, signifying maybe something, but nothing yet.
You're making
I feel
me
like
happy
that's what
tonight.
Nobody should be happy about this, but it's happening. Something is finally actually happening after all of this, and not to diminish what has been going on. It's just maybe it's not news, and a lot of it may not end up in the history books, but this will. So the House Judiciary Committee has drafted and is going to approve articles of impeachment, and this is the first real step put in the Constitution for the procedure of impeaching a U.S. president. And so what they do is they draw up these articles stating the crime, because it has to be high crimes or misdemeanors for that they're going to charge the president with. The Judiciary Committee has to approve them, and then they go to a full House vote, so the full House of Representatives votes, and they have to pass it by a majority, and that really shouldn't be a problem. The Democrats have control of the House, And after that, then it will go to a trial in the Senate. And the senators have to decide on how they're going to run the trial. The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court is the judge, and he kind of mediates in the trial. But yeah, this is the first really significant step. And the two charges,
broke.
the two charges, okay, obstruction of Congress and abuse of power. There was talk of a third one, which would have been obstruction of justice. And they decided that was not as much of a clear-cut case and could get too complex and too confusing, I guess. And so they passed over that. That's not one of the articles. So there are two, obstruction of Congress and abuse of power. And obstruction of Congress, this deals with Trump's administration and the White House, Trump even personally, I guess it would have to be, blocking Congress's collection of evidence and information in order to do certain things. Congress is supposed to kind of have oversight power over the president and over his administration, over the executive branch of the government. It's part of the checks and balances. And what they're accusing him of is obstructing their duty to oversee what the executive branch of the government is doing. And the other is, of course, abuse of power, meaning that he was using his power as president to do things that are kind of illegal or beyond what his power should be used for personal gain, in this case, trying to influence an election using the power of the presidency, which is a no-no. So these are the things that he's accused of. It'll go through the Judiciary Committee into the full House for a vote next week. And then sometime in the new year, probably the end of January, they'll start the trial. After they vote in the House, he'll be impeached. But that doesn't mean really anything legally. It's shameful, and it's it'll be only the only the third time in U.S. history that a president has been impeached. But it really has no legal effect on the president. What happens then is the trial, and then if I think it's 2/3 of the Senate vote to find him guilty after the trial, then he's actually removed from office. And that has never happened before. So things are actually moving. Things are happening here. This is serious American history.
And we've got some serious Armenian history attached to American history. And there was a whole buzz around the Senate passing resolution recognizing Armenian genocide. So yeah,
my understanding of this is it's basically the exact same text that was passed in Congress in the House, in the House of Representatives a few months back. There were some delays to this. Yeah, Trump requested that it be blocked, not voted on a couple of times because, and I think maybe he was right in doing that. It was when Erdogan was in the U.S. and Trump was about to meet with him. It was one of the times, and then when Trump was at the NATO conference in Europe just a couple of weeks ago, he requested that it not be voted on because, he was right there, kind of face to face with Erdogan, and that would be.
So what?
That would be incredibly weird and awkward. So probably not good timing, but it has happened now. It happened.
Let's see what happens next. And let's now jump from politics into culture and some news regarding Armenian letters. So Armenian letter art was included in UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage list. And Armenian letter art and its cultural expressions have been inscribed on UNESCO's representative list. The decision was anonymously adopted during the UNESCO Intergovernmental Committee for the Safeguarding of the Intangible Cultural Heritage meeting in the Colombian capital, this past Wednesday. Armenian letter art and its cultural expressions constitutes the centuries-old art of Armenian letters, Armenian scripts, the rich culture of decorating letters and its various uses, UNESCO reports. The element is based on the Armenian alphabet created in 405 AD by Mesrop Mashtots, following the one letter for one sound principle. The element is also distinguished by its wide range of ornamental scripts, generally classified by their shapes, knots, birds, animals, people, and mythical or imaginary creatures. Since their invention, Armenian letters have not only served their primary function to create written heritage, but also as numbers, cryptographs, riddles, etc. Today, the letters are also used in handicrafts. Armenian letter art has penetrated almost all layers of society, particularly folk art. The cultural identity of Armenian people, its bearers and practitioners include artists, carpet weavers, embroiderers, sculptors, linguists, jewelers, and others. So that's interesting news that we have.
Yeah, well, and that what you're saying about the Armenian alphabet is something that Armenians are very proud of.
Yeah, I know.
And it's something that finds its way into all things Armenian. I was just at the Christmas fair, the Christmas market at the Marriott Hotel today, and there were so many things with the decorative,
letters.
Representations of the letters on them. It's a very, very Armenian thing.
And the first trip that my son went to after going to first grade was visiting Oshakan, which is where Mesrop Mashtos, the creator of Armenian alphabet, is buried. So when they studied the first letter A, they went to Oshakan to visit and to honor the creator of the alphabet and to learn more stuff about him on spot, to see where he was buried. And there is a lot. There is a lot importance given to our alphabet. And we also have another news. Armenian Symphony Orchestra and Maxim Vengerov are to perform 8 concerts in Europe. It will happen from 8th to 21st January as a part of concert tour, the orchestra's press service reported. The concert program features pieces by renowned composers, Bach, Maurice Ravel, etc. So a row of famous symphonies and classical pieces. The entire concert tour will be filmed as a documentary to be aired on Medici TV, the world's leading classical music channel, with 4 of the concerts to be filmed by a professional crew. The concerts are set to take place in Germany, Great Britain, Austria, the Czech Republic, and Russia. So it's nice to hear some good cultural news.
Armenian music stretching out.
And another short news before we go on a break, before our calendar of events. The National New Year tree will be lit up at 8 p.m. December 21st at the Republic Square, Yerevan. So Yerevan City Hall announced that news, and also motivates everyone to join that festive event. And there will also be other events within the framework of this New Year tree lighting. There will be a Christmas music performance and also a Christmas market in the area. So go ahead, people, join the show, join the Christmas.
Yeah, get out there and do Christmassy stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's coming.
It's one of those things, and part of it is that in the U.S. I've never really lived in a downtown area. So I guess I would probably have never experienced it. But living here in Yerevan, they do these things out on the streets, to get people out, even in the cold, to interact with each other and, to get the holiday spirit going.
Especially when you don't have the Christmas tree, when you don't have the snow, you really need the Christmas tree to remind you that Christmas is coming. Stay tuned, guys. We still have the calendar of events block. We'll be back shortly and share all the upcoming events with you.
Hey, what kind of fixins do you like on your hot dog?
Fixins?
Yeah, relish, onions, mustard, ketchup, condiments.
Conda?
No, not that.
Oh, fixins. I love chili dogs.
Learn about American cuisine on the Great American Weekend.
Welcome back to the Great American Weekend here on Radio Vaughn. We are closing out our episode for tonight, as we usually do.
In our last episode with Master Steve this
just
year.
For the year.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, there's like 2 weeks left in the year. And
adding
then we'll
a little
be back.
drama.
We'll be back. I'll be back after the holidays. We'll be back after the holidays. I'll be back.
That's Terminator.
Horrible. Oh, horrible
movie
impression. No, actually, well, I don't know. I saw it when I was a teenager. Not bad for a teenager.
The first one, yes.
So we've got the calendar of events, as usual. The Yerevan American Corner will continue to have their regular events, the Kids Club and the debate and the art and conversation. We don't have any of the details on those yet, but as usual, or as we try to always
they'll
do.
Have something for Christmas.
Yeah, and they'll probably have something for Christmas. Whenever that stuff is posted on Facebook, we'll share it with you guys in our group, The Great American Weekend. And so moving on from that, we've got the English movies.
Movies in English at Kino Park, Yerevan Mall, from 15th through 18th of December. There is Jumanji, The Next Level. This was one of my favorite childhood, youth movies.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's a little creepy and scary maybe for little kids.
It's not quite
but
childhood, like school years.
Yeah.
And so we have Jumanji, The Next Level, which is at 6:25 and 9:50 p.m. And we've got Frozen, the second part, at 4:35 p.m. And also Motherless Brooklyn. This is...
They got no new ideas for kids these days. They're just doing sequels and recycling. No, I'm just kidding.
I think they have something new coming for Christmas.
For Christmas. Oh, there are always good movies coming out around the holidays.
So Motherless Brooklyn is starting at 5:25, and I think it's starring Al Pacino and De Niro, if I'm not mistaken.
Very cool.
Yeah, so if you like these kind of movies, go ahead and watch it. What do we have with opera?
Opera and ballet.
Opera and Ballet Theater, Anush Opera in 3 acts, December 17th at 7 p.m. Cipollino, I've got to go and see this one because I couldn't manage to see it last time. Ballet in 2 acts, December 19th at 7 p.m. And Arshak, the second opera in 2 acts, December 21st at 7 p.m. And now let's see what live music has to offer.
Well, it's got so much to offer. There's just a ton of live music going on, even more than usual. So tonight, right after the show, if you don't have anything to do, take off. You can go to Kami Club and see Winter Drive with Serbuk. That's tonight at 9:30. The Triangle Trio with Jave Diodaki and our good friend is also tonight. It says 8 p.m. at Ulihanyan Club, but Armenia and jazz in Armenia, it'll be starting soon, probably. Go and check that out. That's a great group. Lucine Sarkisian and Karen Grigorian Trio, December 15th. At Ulihanyan. Live Sunday at Kami with the Kami and Friends Project tomorrow night at 9:30. Colorful Winter with the Colors of Music Band at Kami Club December 16th at 9:30. Four Colors Band, December 16th, 8 p.m. at Uli Hanyan. Dead Walking.
Our
Barcode, our guest a couple of weeks ago. At Barcode Yerevan on December 17th at 8:30. The New Quintet is on December 17th at Uli Hanyan, starting at 8 p.m. Take Six live in Yerevan within the framework of the Malhas 75th anniversary. That's December 18th at 7:30 at the Sports Complex. Go check that out. That should be a great show. Zara Markosian, December 18th at 8 p.m. at Uli Hanyan. Beauty and Music Night, the Marie Mkhitaryan and Jazz Band at Kami Club, December 19th at 9:30 p.m. Dialogue Project, December 20th, 8 p.m. at Uli Hanyan. That's a hot ticket. That's going to be a great show.
I bet they're out of tickets already.
Yeah. Well, it's a bar. It's Uli Hanyan. You can always just come in and stand and watch, right? Project 12 at 12 Club on December 20th at 9:30 p.m. Karen Khazarian Quartet, December 22nd at 8 p.m. at Uli Hanyan. An acoustic evening with Apo Tamerian at the venue, December 22nd at 9 p.m. And the Armenian State Jazz Orchestra and Friends do their New Year's and Christmas concert at Aram Khachaturian Concert Hall on December 22nd.
You made it, Stephen. Now we've got some other events. We've got to make this quick. Who Stole the Presents? Make sure you watch this one at Puppet Theater, December 14th at 12, 2, and 4 p.m. Club Night with Sergei Timoshov, he and Hov, December 14th at 11 p.m. at Polygraph. Pub Quiz at the venue, Volume 4, December 16th at 8:30.
Volume 6.
Oh, sorry, Volume 6, December 16th at 8:30 p.m. Electronic Music Night at Epicure, Peaceful Interference, December 14th, which is tonight again at 9 p.m. Khachaturian meets Jazz, 7th Khachaturian Festival, December 18th at 7 p.m. at Aram Khachaturian Concert Hall. Party hard at Paparazzi Club. If you like clubbing, go ahead and join this party December 22nd at 9 p.m. Junction House Jam with Houdini at Kong tonight from 9 p.m. So you can join this party right now till late at night. Beatles in Classical with Suren Sargsyan in Rock Quintet at the Beatles Pub, December 15th at 9 p.m. And I'm going to choose one more event because we don't have much time. And I would like to share this one. Creative Mornings Yerevan at AGBU, December 21st from 10 a.m. Creative Mornings is a monthly breakfast lecture series for the creative community taking place in 210 cities around the world. The main goal of this event is to develop a creative community in our city and create a place to ensure networking among people interested in creative industry. Oh, this is... this
and there is more. There is so much more going on, but we don't have time to tell you about it. We've got to sign off.
Yeah, we've got to sign off.
For the weekend. I just want to say... we'll see you after the holidays. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and Merry Christmas again. But you'll be in good hands with Ina MK
and
here
you'll be
at Radio
missed
Vaughan.
a lot, Master Steve.
Here on the Great American Weekend.
We'll hope to hear from you while you're on a break.
I'll give you a jingle.
See you guys next Saturday. Stay safe. Bye-bye.